Welcome to Beer 30 here at Secure State, a new video series we'll be doing each month to discuss all of the technical aspects of our assessments and our services. My name is Robert. I got 17 years experience combined in IT and IT security.
I'm Thomas. I'm a defensive security analyst and a systems administrator for the past 9 years. So, what is a network architecture review? Basically, it is a review of your network topology. What devices are currently within your network? Do you have any flat zones within your network? And what type of segmentation do you have in place? To conduct a network architecture review, we want to review the configurations of the devices that you have on your network. What are some of the segmentation plans and points that you have in your network? And what other types of protections do you have within the network itself?
So what are the benefits? Your organization is going to be able to look at your architecture, your design, from a high level on a piece of paper and through the configurations, and be able to find low-hanging fruit, as we call it, or places where you're able to segment your network and begin to divide your high-value assets from your lower-value assets and keep those intruders on the outside of your valued target.
So what is a bad or a poor network design? What we have here is a simple drawing of a poor network design. We're showing that there is no protection points segmenting any traffic from the internet into our internal network. We have an external web server that's sitting on our internal network that's not being separated through a DMZ, and there's no ACLs filtering any type of traffic coming in. So a good example of this is we have our external web server for our website. We allow a guest to come in through the internet. They go through our internet service provider's router, and it hits our internal switch and goes directly into our external web server, which is sitting on our internal network. If somebody were to upload any malicious network traffic, files, things of that nature, they already have a route into our internal network through our external web server. Same goes with our printer, internal switch, and internal host. The way this current configuration is, if anybody wanted to come in, they could have access directly to our internal printers, maybe even our Active Directory servers, controllers, things of that nature.
So in our previous example, we talked about a bad network design or poor network design. So let's talk about what might be a good design for that same type of an environment. So originally we talked about the internet, where a visitor or a bad guy may come in through your network to your external web server, which may be on your internal network, which now gives them access to your network. So in this design right here, what we've done is we've segmented off our internal network into 3 zones. 2 internal zones with 1 DMZ zone or demilitarized zone. So now when the user or bad guy comes from the internet through the ISP, through your ISP router, the first thing that they hit is a firewall. The firewall then routes that traffic over to your external web server, which may have a database backend that does your inventory control or your pricing or whatever the case may be. We don't want them having access to the database. We only want the actual calls that are being made go to that database. So what we do is we put ACLs or access control lists and VLANs in place, and then we restrict traffic or we allow traffic based on what those ACLs are. So you're on the inside of your network now, and the person tries to come in, they get stopped by the firewall. The firewall then routes to an internal router. So now we're no longer using the edge router or the ISP's router in this case. We actually have a router internally that does all of our routing. So off of that router, we now split off into 2 zones. One zone may be for PCI or payment card industry standards, or the other one may be for some other standard, or maybe you just want to protect your high value proprietary information. So we'll call that our blue zone. So inside the blue zone, we have all of our own resources inside that blue zone segmented off. So in here we have our servers, we have our file server, and we have a server, whatever, maybe it's Active Directory, maybe it is an HP version of a mainframe that you have, but it's all over here segmented off. And inside your internal router and your firewall, you have ACLs or access control lists blocking or preventing individuals from internal of your network as well as external of your network from getting to your high value data. So on this side now we have a standard user environment, your corporate environment. So you're sitting at your PC, you access your network controlled printer, you access the switch, whichever the case may be. Everything's happy over here, but this user doesn't have access now to your high value zone or your blue zone, but they do have access to printers and to file servers and things like that on this side. But you may have an individual who does have access to your high value data, and then at that point, that specific PC or host would be able to go through your router into your blue zone. So by taking and separating our zones like this, we've now segmented off our high value data and protected it. And we've also pushed out our external web servers, protecting them as well, getting them away from our internal zone, taking that attack vector internally completely away from the attacker. And there's other advanced ways of doing it. There's things called split edge, where you can do that as well, where you take the edge router and you then split it out, giving 2 more layers. All of these things can be examples within our architecture review, depending on what your industry is and what we deem as being important based on our interviews with you. So until next month, I'd like to say thank you for joining us for our Beer 30 here at Secure State. And I'd like to remind you that if you want a more strategic look at security, we also have a monthly State of Security video cast that goes on. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at info@securestate.com. Again, thank you.
Thanks for watching.